For over 5 years now, the JL Audio JD series of amplifiers has been a solid solution for those that are looking for a powerful yet efficient amplifier with features that allow for an easy installation, all at an affordable cost. I'm excited though because JL Audio has announced a new addition to the JD series of amplifiers, the JL Audio JD700/5. What's in the box, what other amplifiers are in the existing JD lineup, and what features does this cost-effective amplifier have? Hey everyone, I'm Mark. If you're new here, welcome to CarAudioFabrication. Let's dive on in and take a closer look. Before we take a look at this new amplifier, I want to bring you guys up to speed on the existing amplifier models in the JD lineup. Of the 5 different car-focused amplifier lines that JL Audio currently offers, this line is designed as a feature-packed, budget-friendly option. Now, JL Audio's amplifier lines typically have amplifiers that fit into 3 different categories. For multi-channel amps, there's currently this amplifier here, the JD400/4. This amplifier is rated at 75 watts RMS times 4 at 4 ohms and 100 watts RMS times 4 at 2 ohms. This is a great choice for powering the speakers in your system. Now, for monoblock amplifiers that are designed specifically to power subwoofers, the JD series currently has 3 different options, the first of which is the JD250/1, but there's also the JD500/1 and the JD1000/1, with the name corresponding to their rated RMS power at 2 ohms. So up until now, there was no full system amplifier in the JD lineup. So if you wanted to amplify a full system of speakers and subwoofers and stay within the JD line, you needed 2 separate amps. Now, with the JD700/5, we can power a full system in one convenient package, which allows us to save on install time and wiring. Before we open this up though, a quick specs review. The first 4 channels are rated at 75 watts RMS at 4 ohms and 100 watts RMS at 2 ohms. The subwoofer channel is 200 watts at 4 ohms or 300 watts at 2 ohms. The amplifier footprint is 11.86 inches wide and 7.5 inches deep, with a thickness or amplifier height of 2.1 inches. The amplifier is of Class D design, which allows for that small compact size with minimal heat and lots of efficient power. Opening up the box here, we're going to get a bag which is going to have a product manual in it normally. This is a pre-production unit that I have here, so yours is going to include a product manual, but also warranty information and Allen keys for making all of the different connections. Removing this packaging material here, we then have the amplifier. Personally, I really like the look of the JD series of amplifiers. It has this extruded aluminum body and also these molded end caps. It's easy to access all of the different mounting points from above here so that you can secure the amplifier properly. There are some indicator lights on top here that we'll talk about shortly. And for all the amplifiers, your power connections and speaker output connections are going to be on this side, whereas your signal connections and all your different settings are on the opposite side. Overall, a clean, simple design that is robust and is going to last you for years to come. These amplifiers feature a really cool setting light that we can use to set our input sensitivity correctly, and I want to show you guys that, so let's go through the process of making all of our connections. Now, the full installation process is covered step by step in the manual, but I'm going to give you some of the highlights here. For our 12-volt constant and ground connection, the wire size is up to 4-gauge wire. Now, we of course need a way to tell this amplifier when to turn on and off, so our conventional method is to attach a switched 12-volt lead that comes on with the audio system, and this would be the most reliable and preferred method, and this is considered the conventional setting. There are 2 additional options though, the first of which is DC offset. This detects the presence of a small DC signal, which is common with using a factory source unit. And the third option is signal sensing, which detects a full range audio signal coming into the amplifier when used with a high level signal. The 3 different options here allow for easy integration of this amplifier with a factory system. For connecting the speakers and subwoofers to our amplifier, we need to connect to these terminals here. The speaker wire size is up to 12 gauge on the speaker wires and up to 8 gauge for the subwoofers. Be sure that your speaker's impedance is at least 2 ohms for each of the speaker channels here or for the subwoofer. And if you're bridging channels, meaning you're combining the power of channels 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, be sure that you have a 4 ohm minimum impedance. A quick side note on the subwoofer terminals here, this is a mono channel, meaning it is summed left and right. It's not 2 different separate channels. The reason that they give you an additional set of connections here that is wired together internally is it allows for some easier wiring if you are using multiple subwoofers. Now going over to the opposite side of the amplifier here, we of course need a signal coming into this amplifier to amplify, and again, there are lots of different options here with the JD series. First of all, these inputs are designed for use with a high level signal like that comes out of a factory head unit or amplifier. We can simply use an adapter like this. Or if we're using an aftermarket source like an aftermarket head unit or a DSP upstream of this amplifier, we can connect the traditional RCA low-level inputs. You'll note that there are 6 different inputs. You've got channels 1 and 2, which are left and right, channels 3 and 4, which are left and right, and then you have a subwoofer channel, which has a left and right, but remember that it is summed internally. Additionally, you have a lot of options with your inputs here due to the input mode selection switch. We can choose 2 channel, which means we only need to connect 2 channels of input here, and the other channels are going to be routed internally to 3 and 4 and the subwoofer. Or you can use the 4-channel option, which allows us to have different channels for front left and right and rear left and right traditionally, while still also getting signal for the subwoofer. Or we can go to 6-channel mode, which makes each of these input channels independently routed to their outputs. While we are on the topic of inputs, keep in mind you also have an input voltage selection switch right here. For a low-level aftermarket source, you'll choose low-level, and if you're using the stock system to send a signal to this, you're going to choose high level. Finally, a connection for the remote level control. This is the sold separately RBC-1, which allows us to control the level of the subwoofer output individually from the rest of the system. It's worth noting that this acts as a volume attenuator, so if we don't use one, it's no big deal. The amplifier operates the same as if the dial was at its highest position. But with the dial connected, we can reduce as needed. I'm going to unplug this for the time being just so we can take a closer look at some of these other settings. And those are the filter mode, filter frequency, and the input sensitivity. And you're going to notice that this is for each set of channels. So you've got channels 1 and 2 right here. You've got channels 3 and 4 down here. And then you've got the subwoofer channel up here, which doesn't have that switch for filter mode because this is always going to be a low pass filter. First, on channels 1 and 2, the filter mode corresponds to our filter frequency dial here, and this allows us to set a crossover point for channels 1 and 2. We would use this setting in the off position if we're controlling the crossover upstream of this amplifier on something like a DSP or on the head unit itself. If we were doing a system where we have full range speakers attached to channels 1 and 2, we would typically use a high pass filter here, and we would typically set to a filter frequency that's going to hand off to our subwoofer. Now we also have the flexibility with this amp to do a more complex system. Let's say that we want to do some active tweeters on channels 1 and 2. Instead, we can change our filter mode to the high pass times 10, which means this 80 becomes 800. Let's say that I want to set the crossover frequency for my tweeters to 5,000 hertz. So 500 times 10 is 5,000. We can set it right there. Now the input sensitivity clipping dial I want to talk about last. Let's move on to the next bank of channels. Channels 3 and 4, and in this case here, you're going to see the filter mode is a little bit different. Again, we could turn it off if we're controlling our crossovers upstream of the amplifier. We could again also use the high pass filter if we were doing something like, let's say, rear full range speakers on these channels. We could use a high pass filter again that hands off at a similar crossover point to our subwoofer. Or if we're doing that more complex system, like I noted, where we are doing an active set of tweeters on channels 1 and 2 and an active set of woofers on channels 3 and 4, we can change this into a band pass filter, which means this stays a high pass filter for this set of channels, but it's going to use a low pass crossover point that is based upon what we set channels 1 and 2 at. So as an example, since we have channels 1 and 2 set at 5,000 hertz, that's going to become the low pass filter frequency for channels 3 and 4, and it's going to have a high pass. In this case, right now I have it set at 80 hertz. Finally, the subwoofer channel here, the low pass filter is simple enough, and this ranges from 50 hertz up to 500 hertz, and in this case we have it set at 80 hertz, meaning frequencies below 80 hertz are going to pass to our sub. And a quick side note, all of these crossovers are 12 dB per octave. Now, before we can get into the input sensitivity setting, I do want to give you guys a quick overview of the test bench setup that I have going on here. This is essentially a car audio system outside of the car. We've got an aftermarket source unit here. We also have a two-way component set of JL Audio speakers. And the way I've connected these is we have channels 1 and 2 powering the tweeters actively, and then we have channels 3 and 4 powering the woofers actively. The full input sensitivity setting procedure is outlined in the manual. This includes temporarily disconnecting the speakers and playing the proper test tone on the source unit. The advantage on the JD series of amplifiers, though, is as we are turning up the input sensitivity, it has a red indicator around the dial. The indicator light will tell us when clipping is detected. That way we can simply slightly back off the input sensitivity, thus maximizing it. Now, while we are all connected here, it's worth noting that even 300 watts RMS of power on an efficient subwoofer in a properly constructed enclosure can be substantial. With plenty of power and quality components, this amplifier sounds very clean and dynamic. Now, there are a few things here that we can't necessarily see by looking at the amplifier, but these are features that set JL Audio apart and ensure that you get incredible sound quality. The first of which is the Next D switching technology. These amplifiers are a Class D design, but these have JL Audio's proprietary Next D switching technology, which results in clean, powerful, and reliable sound performance. Additionally, the JD series of amplifiers have differential balanced inputs, which is a feature that helps prevent input-induced cable noise. Finally, on top of the amplifier here, there are actually status lights. You get the normal blue light whenever the amplifier is turned on, but there's also this indicator over here. If the amplifier exceeds its safe operating temperature, it will automatically protect itself and issue a constant red warning or flash red during overcurrent conditions. It's nice to know that there is some diagnostic ability built into this amplifier should you experience any rare issues. Overall, if you're looking for a powerful, efficient, and affordable solution to get into aftermarket audio, the JD series of amps is definitely a solid choice. If you'd like to see more JL Audio gear and some projects that I've done here on the channel using JL Audio, definitely be sure to check out these related videos. A special thanks to Garmin for sponsoring this video so that we could take a closer look, and thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching.